So, a key thing we often need to remember is how business and marketing are not value neutral. And so, we see this more than ever when it comes to international marketing when we see differences much more clearly. And so, what we're going to cover today in this section is basically an approach starting to develop your stance, as well as explore a few items that are prominent in this section as examples. And again, big idea is that I will not be able to cover every single instance there is, but what this will do is let you prepare for what comes around. So there are plenty of examples of ethical and socially responsible decisions that arise in marketing and international marketing alike. So things like employment practices and policies, consumer protection, environmental protection, things like political payments and involvement in political affairs of the country, and what they call basic human rights and fundamental freedoms. So you can see how a lot of these are value laden, very much in depth in terms of discussions on what is moral. So there's a lot of chances for more heated discussion. So here's our pyramid of corporate social responsibility proposed by Archie Carroll. Organizations have different ways they may seek to serve as ethical entities, and here are four major ways we tend to think about how we might act. So what we have here is an ethical framework, and this may be useful to keep things organized. So something to remember is that laws and regulations impact markets and those who may work, organize, or sell to them. Knowing who are the actors and how they envision what's the problem and what's at stake will help you better understand their arguments, probable outcomes, and how it can inform your strategy. And remember, this isn't just a matter of saying, well, know what the law says this or the norm for the countries is do that, but also knowing how to look critically and analytically at a situation to understand how a law and the larger regulatory landscape fits into your strategic thinking. And remember, just because it's not a law, like a proper law, doesn't mean that it's whatever is enforced by whatever social, political, economic means. So you want to be able to, in general, when you talk ethics, better understand their arguments, probable outcomes, and how it can impact your strategy. So let's reflect. What is corruption? So think back to Seth Godin. He emphasized culture is meant to help us be in sync, not necessarily right. So same goes with corruption. It's more a matter of what is considered of making a mess or mockery of what should be done. You can tell how our Western American take on the word is dishonest or fraudulent conduct by those in power. Is based on how we in the West have certain meritocracy and individualism. Therefore, something like bribery, extortion, unfair bidding, or misuse of funds where it goes to the politician's own coffers rather than the quote better provider, so less expensive or higher quality, burns our buttons and makes us angrier as for those in that culture. Your book talks how others tend to stress other forms of what they count as corruption. So for the West is very big on bribery. So many countries don't restrict what the Americans consider bribery. But in their case, if you don't pay bribes, you don't do business. And so there's a conflict between ethics and profitability. So the US views bribery as a very serious form of corruption. And democracy, especially as you can imagine, depends on public trust, integrity of government and public institutions. And so we take a pretty dim view. So this is a nice little preview of Starnes Brenner that you'll be discussing in week 3. So what you'll be doing is you'll be getting into groups and chatting with them, and we're going to talk your major ideas and see what takes hold, and we'll see what happens, because I know that it always depends on the makeup of the group, what types of arguments are made, and so there's always a little bit of delightful chaos. So this is a time to go ahead and look back at the big ideas and objectives. think about what could you do better to better, again, how would you adapt to different practices? And a lot of knowing different practices is, again, knowing what they are and not just so that you know whether and how to adapt and thinking about how it impacts management styles and those business ethics. So with that, that is our quick overview of chapter 5 and preparing ourselves for better understanding doing business across cultures. And so again, big idea. You're going to have to, no one book is going to always have the right up-to-date answers because cultures are always changing. So what you have to do is be ready to look for the information and apply it. Figure out how you to change and adjust your plans as needed. So with that, hope you're having a good day or evening so far. And let me know if you have questions and whatever ideas, take them, run with them, see where they take you. Have a good time. Take care.